What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be checking out the Zoologist fragrances. I bought every single one of them. That's 33 fragrances in total. So I got a sample of every single one of them. I took one for the team for you guys. It was about $195. So we're going to be checking out all of the fragrances, what I think about them. We're going to run through the best ones, the worst ones, which ones are blind buy safe. I'll give you the entire rundown. So first things first, my thoughts about the fragrance house as a whole after buying every single one of their fragrances. They're actually by far one of my favorite niche brands. And you guys saw my videos on all the Mason Crivelli fragrances. I bought all the Floricu fragrances. I've just been buying the entire sample kits of all these fragrance companies, all these niche brands, to see what they're all about. And by far, I believe that this one was the most niche, the most truly niche fragrance brand of them all. At first I didn't know what to expect, each one of them has kind of a silly picture of an animal, but that's kind of cool that they're based on an animal. Didn't know what to think, and they really won me over. So each fragrance comes with kind of a story, and they'll tell you who the perfumer is. They'll give you the story of kind of a background of the scent, as well as the notes of each fragrance in them. So there's some of them that are easily blind buy safe. There are some that are less so, especially because a lot of them, since they are based off of animals, they are a little bit more animalic. So yeah, so $195, for the whole sample kit of them. Hopefully this video doesn't flop, but they're definitely not cheap, especially when you buy a whole bottle of them. So I would encourage you to buy a sample kit or a smaller sample kit if you're interested in any of them. Yeah, let's just run through all of them. I'll give you kind of the rundown and what each one is about. We'll start off with some of my personal favorites. So my personal favorites included Rabbit, which is an amazing gourmand fragrance. It has this certain ginger biscuity kind of a note to it. It is a biscuit accord, as well as almond, vanilla in there, clover flower. So it really smells like just a sweet little bunny rabbit. So amazing unisex fragrance. My next favorite one, I really liked Hummingbird. This one leans a little bit more feminine. Very fruity. It has apple, cherry, plum, rose in there. Some honeysuckle in there. Excellent fragrance. So I would definitely recommend those two. Again, that was on the sweeter side. Another good one to check out or look into would be Cow. So this one has sort of a milk accord in there, but it also has lily of the valley. It has sage and apple. It just feels like a very cozy fragrance, like very comforting, I would say. It doesn't necessarily smell like a cow, because we all know how that smells, but it smells like just sort of a comforting scent that is inspired by the cow. Another great one was Chameleon. Now this one was interesting. It has bergamot, lemon, ylang-ylang, mango, pink pepper, violet leaves, cashmeran, frangipani, sea salt. You don't really know what's going on. There's a whole lot going on. There's patchouli, sandalwood, a million different notes. And usually that turns into a muddled up mess. But with the Chameleon, that's kind of the point. It's supposed to change and trick you and, okay, what's going on? Is this a woody fragrance? No, is this a fruity fragrance? What's happening here? And I think it did a really good job of that. So I think a lot of these get an A+ for creativity. When I was smelling a lot of these other fragrance brands that I did the entire kits for, they just didn't have this certain feel to them where you're like, whoa, I've never smelled that before. You're like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is a good, nutmeg, spicy fragrance or whatever. But this was like, whoa, this is a whole new thing. It sends you on sort of an olfactory journey, like a scent journey, So that's why I was actually very pleased by this purchase. So real quick before I continue, if you're interested in this kind of content and you want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Really helps out the channel so I can do more of these for you guys. All right, anyway, back to the video. So next one, let's talk about Bee. Yes, it has honey, as you would expect. It's a very heavy, thick fragrance. It has broom, heliotrope, mimosa. It's ginger syrup and royal jelly in there. So it has just sort of this thick, thick honeyed type fragrance to it. Really nice, and then almost kind of musky in the base notes. So really like that one. This next one It's not so easy to wear, but I think that it was just so creative. I had to include it in some of my, you know, kind of my list of the favorites of them. This one was called Koala. You spray this and immediately you're like, whoa, that smells like what I would imagine a koala smells like. Very heavy on the musk. It is animalic for sure, but almost like a clean animalic musk. It has this mimosa and gumdrop, eucalyptus kind of top notes to it. It's exactly what you would think a koala would smell like. Just a little gray, fuzzy little guy, you know, just kind of this, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's very musky, very animalic. And again, like I said, you know, a lot of these fragrances, this house, they're not afraid to go animalic. I mean, that's what it's all about in the end. So they're not afraid to have some musks in there too, but they balance it out well with all these notes that we know and love that actually smell really good and make it smell like a good fragrance. So it's kind of that balance that they're always jumping around with. Okay, so next one. This was another good one. Macaque, the monkey. So this was very fresh, almost like a clean linens type smell to it. Fuji apple, juniper berry, some myrrh in there, some woods in there. Very nice fragrance, very clean fragrance. Surprisingly clean if you think about a macaque, that's that monkey, you know, so you'd think it would be more animalic. It's not. So next up we have Dodo, the jackfruit edition. I think that this one was better than the regular Dodo because it'll come with 2 if you do the whole sample pack. This one was a nice, it has this jackfruit accord, but it also has some sort of, you know, kind of woody green notes to it. Very nice and fruity, very fresh. I really liked that one. So here's one that I think gets overhyped. People are gonna hate me for this one because this was a Fragrance Foundation winner from 2020. This was an award winner. This is Squid. Everybody's gonna tell you, you gotta get Squid, you gotta do this about Squid, you know. Yes, it does kind of have this almost an ink accord because of the you know, the opopanax that they're using. They're using like an incense, but then also some salicylates in there, and they're creating this sort of an illusion of black ink, which is really cool. So I included it up here because of the creativity. But again, it's not what you would think. It's not very inky. You know, you have to sort of stretch the imagination to get this sweet black ink. So next one, I really like this one. This is not Blind Buy safe, but it was very nice. It's called civet. So civet is a ingredient that came from the civet, the animal. A long time ago, they used their musk. It's illegal now, but this is kind of a homage to the original civet ingredient that people used to use. It has some coffee and some leather in there as well. This is very animalic, so it's gonna be kind of harder to wear. I would smell that one before you buy it. There's a couple other ones, couple other key ones that I would try before you buy. Definitely not Blind Buy safe, so be aware of these ones, guys. Right off of the bat, be aware of, not sloth, be aware of rhinoceros, is very animalic. Tyrannosaurus Rex smells literally like a burning tire. People are gonna hype it up. It smells terrible. It's very smoky. Borderline unwearable. It just smells like geoc wood. It doesn't smell good at all. Hyrax, it's a great scent, but again, you smell like the zoo. You literally smell like that kind of dusty muskiness that you get from like the camel section of the zoo. Sacred Scarab, again, there's this sort of this just ugly muskiness to it, a deep musk to it, because they're like dung beetles basically. Great fragrance, again, well put together, but very, very animalic. Same obviously with musk deer. Although musk deer isn't as bad as you would think. It's a little more dusty. We've also got, okay, so there's some vetiver-y type ones, which I didn't really like. Tiger is very heavy on the vetiver. Yeah, it's just sort of a green powdery vetiver. Panda is also very earthy and a little bit of vetiver in there. Yeah, Panda just basically smells like geosmin, like an earthy, very just basically like dirt. Panda smells like dirt. Elephant, also kind of a vetiver, sort of dirty, musky, you know, fragrance. It smells like dust, basically. So nobody really wants to smell like dust. I would kind of steer clear of that one. Anyway, back to some of the good ones. Dragonfly was a nice one. I liked Dragonfly. It has sort of this, you know, sort of a rainwater accord to it. Very aquatic, floral. I say this one leans a little bit more feminine, but it's probably unisex. Most of these are pretty unisex, actually. Then there's Beaver. So Beaver was actually very nice. Surprisingly, so yes, there's that animalic aspect to it, but it was surprisingly fresh. It has fresh outdoor air and linden blossom and wood shavings and wild vegetation. So it's really, it's about like being in the great outdoors. It's not necessarily smelling like a stinky old beaver. You know what I'm saying? Next up was Camel. This was an interesting one. So Camel has a lot of frankincense and myrrh. It's kind of what you would think of, kind of that vibe of what a camel would smell like. Yes, it has some musk in there too, for sure. It's not as dusty and dirty and kind of nasty as some of those other ones I spoke about. So that's why Camel was a little higher on the list. I liked that one. Here's Moth. Moth was very interesting. Moth was a very unique one. It has sort of this smoky, this fire, this flame that the moth is drawn to. But it also has sort of the sweet spices, the kind of almost like honey, cinnamon, nutmeg, cumin, saffron, you know, some of these spices. And then it has honey in the base notes. So it is kind of sweetened up. So nice, sweet, smoky, incensey, really like Moth. Cockatiel. Cockatiel was pretty good. It's not what I would have thought. So at first smell, all I got was the geoc wood, this kind of smoky wood. I was like, what the hell? This does not smell like a cockatiel wood. But if you smell closely, then you get these top notes of champagne, raspberry, and rhubarb. But again, the top notes don't push through very hard on most of these. They're a little more base heavy, and most of these are a parfum extrait. So these sprayers, they don't work super well. So next up was one that gets a lot of hype. This is Penguin. Okay, so it's supposed to be chilly Arctic air, right? Antarctic air. And maybe you get a little bit about that, a little bit of that. I thought they were going to be using a fragrance chemical called Fresco Menthe, which is the cold part of mint. Not the green part of the mint, not the whole mint. It's just that coldness. So I was like, wow, this is a very unique use of Fresco Menthe. They're using some ingredients with a little bit more of the pinene, right? So alpha pinene, beta pinene, some of these notes that will give you kind of the sensation of almost like a minty menthol type vibe to it. But they weren't really using a lot of Fresco Menthe, which I was disappointed by. I wanted it to be like cold air, you know, like a penguin, you know? So then they had a second chance to do it with Snowy Owl. And it was okay. I mean, yeah, they have this sort of this snowdrop accord to it. But again, I think they're just using some ozonic notes and then they're doing the juniper trick. But that's okay. Some of the terpineols, yeah. Okay, next. Oh yeah, let's talk about Chipmunk. So Chipmunk, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah, there's some nuttiness to it, but really it just smells sort of like a woody, just general woody note. There's some earthiness to it, but it wasn't as much of an interesting fragrance as I thought it was going to be. Oh yeah, Harvest Mouse. Okay, so next, Harvest Mouse. This has sort of a barley type of note to it. There's beer extract CO2 in there. So sort of this like warm barley hay type note in there. I really liked Harvest Mouse. I thought that was pretty darn good. Next we have the Macaque. This is the Yuzu edition. Same thing, but the top note is Yuzu. I don't really like it as much as the regular Macaque one with the Fuji apple. So that's okay. Now we have regular Dodo. It's not as good, in my opinion, as the Dodo Jackfruit edition. Yeah, it's just sort of a kind of green vegetation fragrance. There's a little bit of fruitiness in there, but not really a whole lot. Another interesting one was Bat. I didn't really personally like this one. I think this is going to be really hard to wear. It's just animalic and earthy, but that's pretty much all there is going on in there. Nightingale. Nightingale does not smell like what I thought a nightingale would smell like, which is a bird. This is like, yeah, bergamot, lemon, saffron, plum blossom, moss. Yeah, very interesting. I'm not sure what to make of it. I didn't really like it. Seahorse. Seahorse I didn't really like either. Yeah, it's just sort of a general kind of aquatic. It has algae absolute in it, so they're using like an alginone or something, or they're truly using algae absolute, which would be a seaweed absolute. So yeah, that was kind of just a general aquatic fragrance. Northern Cardinal, last one. Northern Cardinal I also didn't like. They were just using some weird gray, green notes, some green earthy notes that I didn't really like, and then it was just a little bit harsh. Other than that, none of them were harsh. They're actually all very smooth and all very well blended. So I will say they did a great job of that. Creativity, they did a great job of that, more so than most of the other niche brands that I've been testing out. So overall, as a whole, as a house, I would give them at least a 9.5 out of 10. For the price is probably a 6 out of 10. It's not great, you know, but you are paying for a niche fragrance. But these are truly niche, so probably one of the only houses I would actually bust out a little extra cash for. So yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like me doing these sort of videos where I just sort of buy all of them and let you know the whole rundown of all of them. And I'll see you in the next one.